Welcome to Legends Live, hosted by the National Basketball Retired Players Association, the official home of NBA and WNBA legends. For all of our viewers out there and to everyone in the Legends community, we hope you and yours are staying safe, staying healthy, and staying strong. Today on Legends Live, we're going to have another chat with Gat. So we have NBA legend, NBA alumni, vice president, and former NBA coach Kenny Gattison is here to have a conversation with a current NBA player. Marvin Williams is in the house today. He was drafted in 2005 by the Atlanta Hawks out of UNC, and he's the current forward, number 20 for the Milwaukee Bucks. So let's welcome to Legends Live, Kenny Gattison and Marvin Williams. The floor is yours.
Hey, Marvin, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, you doing all right?
I'm doing good. Just a little bit tired of being on house arrest.
Yeah, I think everybody is, right?
Yeah. So this is a interesting conversation. I reached out because I think, with this being the week that the NBA owners and powers that be are starting to putting together a timeline, I thought it would be a good idea to have a current player on, because this season, 2020, is going to be a year to remember. But also, you have a complete work stoppage or play stoppage halting the season, and you guys sit idle for a month and a half, almost 2 months. Now, you guys are saying, okay, let's get back into the facilities. Let's start getting ourselves into basketball mode. So what has it been like the last couple months? You quarantined at home with a couple young daughters and a wife in the house where you're outnumbered. So what has it been like since you get the word that Gobert test positive for corona, and then the league shuts down? Tell me, all this stuff happened so fast. So what has it been like the last couple months for you?
Yeah, again, I think that's exactly what happened. I think everything happened so fast. Rudy tests positive, and it comes to find out that another one of his teammates tested positive, and then a couple other guys around the league, so the league shuts down. So this has been a unique experience. I mean, obviously, you've experienced a lockout, and you remember with the lockout, it was different because you may not be able to come into the facilities or talk to the coaches, the doctors, but you could still go out into the world and play basketball. You can always find somewhere to play a pickup game. But now, when they shut the world down, like you said, we've been in the house for the last 2.5 months, so you can't do anything. So for guys that don't have workout equipment in their home, or a gym where they can go work out and social distance themselves, you're pretty much in trouble. And then you fast forward to 2.5 months later, they're talking about restarting the season, and we're a couple of weeks away from the playoffs. I mean, that's pretty difficult to do. So I know guys are rushing to kind of get their bodies back in shape, and it's a fine line, man. You want to push to get back in shape as fast as you can, but you don't want to hurt yourself as well. So right. It'll be interesting these next few weeks, certainly.
What do you think, just in your migration back into the gym? You're in Milwaukee now, and your teammates are there, and you guys are trying to get those bones back moving and get back. What do you think is going to be the most important thing? Your conditioning, or getting up as many shots and as much feel to the game as you possibly can going back? Because you're, like you say, if you go too hard, you run the risk of getting injured. If you sit back and, as we know as players, to get that shooting touch, to get that skill, to get that timing back, you have to play. So it's like you said, it's a very unique situation, whereas you want to condition yourself, you want to get your touch and rhythm back, but you don't want to hurt yourself. So where is the balance at? What are you and your teammates in Milwaukee? How are y'all processing everything and moving towards getting back on the court?
You know what, Gat? I think every player is going to be different. I think everyone's going to be different. For guys that have had workout equipment and were able to keep themselves, somewhat conditioned, obviously you can run as much as you want to, but it's never the same as going out there and playing basketball. But for guys that have been able to keep themselves somewhat conditioned, I think the timing thing is going to be the biggest for them. And for other guys who maybe lived in an apartment and they didn't have anywhere to condition, I think trying to get back in shape, as quick as possible and as safe as possible is going to be the biggest thing for them. But I'm sure the Players Association and the NBA will map out.
I lost your audio there for a second, Marv. But
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, but that's an important thing, and of course, you guys have a great president in the NBA Players Association and Chris Paul and the whole executive committee. It's one of the things that we tried to accomplish back in our days of playing, of having the stars really get involved with the union, because, when you have an executive committee of Kenny Gattison and Mark West and Tyrone Corbin sitting down in front of David Stern, it's not exactly the same firepower as Chris Paul and Steph and Bron and Iguodala and those guys. So I think that the young guys have really done a wonderful job of taking the Players Association to a whole different height and a whole different level. Now let's go back 15, 16 years.
Okay.
You raised in Seattle, out in Northwest.
Yes, sir.
Which is, a lot of people don't really notice, but there's been some heck of basketball players come out of that Seattle region. Of course, yourself was one of them, but there's a list of guys that went on to the NBA out of that Seattle area. But you make the transition from Seattle to Chapel Hill. What was that like?
And that was an experience. Obviously being from the Northwest and coming to the South, it was very different. Very different. Just the way of living, the people, the type of food you eat, the pace. It was all really, really different. Thankfully, my father growing up in North Carolina, kind of showed me the ropes, and I kind of knew a little bit of what to expect. I had family down here, obviously, so they took great care of me when I was in Chapel Hill. But it was certainly an adjustment period. But once I got here, I never left. I've always come back to North Carolina, spend my summers in Chapel Hill, and currently I live in Charlotte. I'm building a home here, starting a family here. So I love Charlotte, man. North Carolina's been good to me.
Well, obviously you won a national championship there and went on to have a great career. And, for a lot of people that don't know, me and Marvin's dad grew up really close to each other down in Wilmington, and we played against each other in the parks in the summertime, in the rec leagues and in high school. And we don't even have enough time to talk about all those funny stories. But looking at your career, and I remember having a conversation with you early in your career, year one or year two, and I was coaching then, and I'm like, Marv, 10 years is going to go by so fast, it's going to make your head spin. And now you're looking at year 15. What has it been like for you trying to make that transition? Now you're the elder statesman. I think we lost him, Bridget.
I think we did too. Hopefully we can hear you, Marvin. We just can't see you right now.
Okay, let's see. There we go. Can you see me now?
We can't see you, but we can hear you. That's one of those things where you might have got a text or a call or something, and it'll go dark. But we can keep talking because we can hear you.
Still can't see me?
No.
Can't see you, but we can hear you. So while you're trying to figure out the video part of it, talk about what it was like going from that rookie to 10 years blazing by. Now you're like the senior statesman. Yeah, we got you. We can see you. This year 15 for you.
Can you hear me?
What is it? Yeah. We can see you now. We can hear you. Can you hear us? Go ahead. You can talk. We can hear you. We can see you. There you go.
Can you hear me, Gat?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can see you too. You got me? Can you hear me, Marv? I don't know. He must have muted his phone, but I don't see the mute on there.
Yeah, I think maybe it looks like he had a problem hearing us. So hopefully he can come back in and I can get him back live because he probably did just get an interruption on his phone. But let's see. Here he is. Can you hear us now?
There we go. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Marv, talk about the, early on in your career, and I remember us sitting down and talking because I was coaching then, maybe year 1, year 2. And I'm like, Marv, 10 years are going to go by so fast, it's going to make your head spin. Now you in year 15, you're the elder statesman in any locker room you walk into. What has that been like when you go back and you look at your career in like 5-year increments now? What's that transition been like?
It's been such a journey, Gad. Obviously, as you know, you've been close to my career, very close to my career, but I've been so blessed, man, so blessed to be able to stick around this long. I remember when I was a young pup, I felt like if I could just get 10 years out of this thing, I'd be happy with that. But 15 years later, it's gone by so fast. You were so right, about it. I've loved the journey. I've been so thankful for the journey, the people that I've been able to meet, the experiences that I've been able to have, to wake up every day and be able to live your dream. I mean, you know what that's like. So I've certainly been so blessed, man. I'm very thankful.
Yeah, and one of the things that you look at, and and me being close to your career and being here in Charlotte, and the necessary departure from the Hornets. I know that was one of those places in a career where you're looking at them moving towards they didn't want to say it, but they're in a rebuild. And you got released, and now you end up with a team that truly has a shot at winning a NBA championship. So from a mindset, you go from watching a team you've been a part of for the last 4 or 5 years, basically decimated to a rebuild. Now, almost within 48 hours, you're a part of an NBA championship caliber team. So what kind of mental adjustment do you have to make? Because going into this thing, we always say every game matters, but when you play in 82, game 17 don't matter that much. But now you guys going back into this thing, it's going to be a compressed schedule. It's going to be, you guys will probably go back to what we did in the mid 80s, back to back games. You talking about wear and tear on your body. And then you can't afford to lose, because every loss is going to have major implications on playoff seedings. Of course, naturally, you want that number 1 seeding, so you keep home court advantage. Talk about the mindset that you going to take into preparation. Talk about the mindset that you're going to try to get your teammates to get in once y'all do resume gameplay.
I think first and foremost, I want to thank everybody in Charlotte. Can you see me? Can you hear?
It's kind of broken up. Go ahead back and say what you said about you wanted to thank everybody in Charlotte.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody in Charlotte, from the coaching staff to my teammates, obviously to the owner, MJ, to Mitch. Those guys were very supportive with, what happened with me. Obviously, they decided to go in a different direction, and they gave me an opportunity to, pursue an NBA championship. So I'm certainly thankful for all of my time, here in Charlotte. I'm still very close to those guys.
We just lost Marvin.
Yeah.
We just lost Marvin. But what he was alluding to was what a lot of young players miss out on while they're in their careers. That's why it was, I was thankful he had the opening in his schedule to come on and talk and chat with us, because so many players get an attitude when they get released or when they get waived or when they get traded. But the biggest thing that you have to understand, the basketball is round and the earth is round. You're moving in a big circle, and these people that you are playing for and coaches, it's always so critical to conduct yourself as a professional at all times, because there's a lot of guys that I know, the biggest difference between when I played, I got my 10 years in, and at year 10, I knew I was going to have to go to work. The difference is now, guys today, because the money has skyrocketed to such a level, they don't, not even concerned about going to work. Most of them, they're looking to become entrepreneurs and owners. But you're still going to need people along the way. You're going to need to rely on a circle of friends, a circle of people. And, Marvin's been around long enough to know and to understand that he's not bitter at all about being released by the Hornets, because in reality, they did him a huge favor, because there's a lot of organizations that wouldn't release a player in the last year of his contract because they're looking for all that cap space. So, he understands. And like he says, he's making Charlotte his home. So, I would say sometime in the next 3-4 years or whenever he retires, he may just be in the staff with the Hornets at some capacity.
I don't know about that, yeah.
Well, I'm just
a lot of stress, yeah.
Well, you got that right. I coached for whatever 16, 17 years. I know, and I wouldn't. We'll talk about that. I wouldn't advise it to you. Sit down and talk. But going forward, when your guys get back playing, you guys are going to have one focus, and that's winning this championship this year.
Yes, sir.
You talk about being careful. You're talking about not injuring yourself. Okay. You can throw the minutes count, the minutes restrictions out the window when guys get back, because every win, every loss is going to have playoff implications as far as seeding goes. So what are you going to do to keep your guys in the right frame of mind and as the veteran leader on the team and the guy that they're going to, some of these guys have been off for a couple months. They're going to be lost. They're going to try to figure out, okay, where was I at? What was I doing? So what are you looking to do as far as your role, not in between the lines, but in that locker room, in that weight room, just being a leader and showing these guys how to be good pros?
Well, you know what, Gatt? Honestly, Milwaukee, man, they got a lot of veteran guys that have been around for a long time. And obviously, what they've accomplished last year, and they're hungry, man. I saw that from day one. The minute I stepped foot in that locker room, they have a different drive about them. You can totally tell that 1 through 15 in that locker room want to win the championship. That's all they think about. That's all they push for every day, the way they carry themselves each and every day in the weight room, getting their treatment. When we work out on the court, you can tell that the goal is to win the championship. So I don't think there's really much to be said. I think for me, that's kind of my personality type. I show up and go to work like I'm supposed to. So I think everybody in that locker room knows, from the coaching staff down, that the one thing I'm about is trying to win. And I just want to win however I can contribute. I told Coach from day one, if I play, minutes, that's great. If I never play and never see the court, that's great too. I'll be ready when my number is called. So that's how I've always approached it, and that's how I'm going to approach it to finish this thing out.
Yeah. Now, the reality is everybody's getting set to resume the season, and they're talking about going down to Orlando with the Hughes Sport Complex down there. Has there been any dialogue or any communication with the PA to the players? What are they going to do as far as testing and making sure that everybody social distancing and God forbid you start the season back and one player test positive for COVID? Has anything been communicated about what precautions that they're going to be put in place?
Well, I personally do not know. I do know that they are working on that behind the scenes very diligently. I think that's the $1 million question that everyone's concerned about. What happens when one person, knock on wood, gets sick? I think Adam Silver has stated that if that were to happen, he would not shut the entire thing down. I don't know how they will handle that, but I mean, it'll be interesting if not one guy what if like half a team gets sick? And then what?
Right.
You know what I mean? I don't know what they're gonna do. Like I said, they have some great players, like you mentioned, with the Players Association that are working on it. Very smart people. Obviously, the NBA league officers have very smart people that they're working with, health officials and whatnot. So I'm sure they're going to come up with a plan. I don't think they will bring us back to shut this thing down. Right. I'm sure they'll know how to handle everybody if and when someone were to get sick. But it certainly is a concern. I do think that's the biggest question that everyone is wondering right now.
Well, I certainly hope that, knock on wood, and nobody gets COVID, but in the event that they do, there has to be a contingency plan. And the NBA is a mega billion-dollar marketing machine, and no business wants to start back up and then shut down. But at the end of the day, the players make the NBA. So hopefully everybody stays healthy and nobody tests positive, and the season can resume and get on through the playoffs and crown a champion. Now let's talk about the state of the world right now. I mean, 2020 is going to go down as one of the most trying years for the whole world. The whole world has been touched by COVID. And in itself, a pandemic rocked the world to its core. Now, George Floyd and what's happened with the inequalities that African Americans, people of color, have suffered through the years. And, I was born in North Carolina in 1964. I've seen the white water fountain and the colored water fountain. But here you are. It's 2020. And not only the United States, but the whole world has taken a stance against the inequalities that people of color, racism, whether it's economic or social economic racism, the world has responded. Give me your take and what you observed and how do you tell this story to your two young daughters as you move through life going forward?
Gad, I'll be 100% honest with you. I just had this talk with my lady probably 3 or 4 hours ago. Like, how do you sit down and tell a 5-year-old what is happening in the world? When is it appropriate to tell a 5-year-old what has been happening in the world? This is something that has been going on for obviously far, far too long with the racism and inequalities. And, our country it's in a trying state right now. I'm very thankful that the world now is taking notice. I feel like our country is really trying to take notice. But, I mean, African Americans have been trying to express this for, years, centuries, a long time, the way we've been treated. Obviously, racism is, something that's deeply, I feel like, ingrained in our country, and it's really unfortunate. But to have a police officer, these police officers, the people that are supposed to protect our community, to have them be the ones that are hurting us, it really puts you at a vulnerable state, you know. And I don't understand how it got to this point, but I am thankful that now I think the world is finally taking notice to it, and I think it's going to take everyone to promote change, to help change. I do think it's going to take a lot of work, but I do think if people are willing to be open-minded and listen to each other and work together, I do think it is possible. But something has to change, because this can't continue, you know, not only in our country, but in the world.
Well, I think that as the old song goes, changes are coming.
Yeah.
The changes are here. The changes are now. And you know, like I said, I was born in a right in the midst of the civil rights movement and everything that we went through as a people, as a nation. But to see that 4 officers were charged
Mm-hmm.
is something that would have never happened 3 years ago. They wouldn't even charge 1 officer for killing an unarmed black man.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the people have spoken, and the people that's in leadership, they've heard them, and not only in the United States but all around the world. So the United States isn't perfect, the world isn't perfect, but I can tell you it's better than what it was. And your daughters are going to have to be told this story, but because this story is written now, I think 10 years from now, when they're teenagers and getting into those years where, you know, and me raising 3 sons and having them get their driver's license and go out and drive at night, and a whole lot of people talk about having that talk. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, 10 years from now, you'll be having that talk with Ari once she gets past her learner's permit and start driving. So it's something that had to happen in this country, in this world. It just was a matter of when. And 2020 is the here and now. So, you know, I think, and it's a saying that goes, only a crisis causes a change. And this is definitely was a not only a pandemic crisis, but it's also, you know, people have been screaming and dying for equality and, you know, the right to live a life and not be judged on the color of your skin. So, like I said, the world's not perfect, and but it's better than it was in my upbringing. So,
yes, sir.
Well, I certainly appreciate you being on with us. It's been a pleasure, and getting that helpful insight with a current player who's getting ready to get back on and strap it up and go out and hopefully contend for a NBA championship. So appreciate you.
Sir.
Bridget, do you have any questions? Bridget, have any questions from any viewers?
Yeah, that we just were wondering. Well, thank you both for your time and for speaking about basketball and then just what's going on in the world and in our lives right now. So thank you very much. But Kenny, you've referenced the championship, contending for a championship twice in the past couple minutes. And Marvin, I'm just wondering, for you and your teammates, does this 2020 NBA championship look and feel different because the season was so it's not normal?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think for everybody, whether you're playing in the finals 3 months from now or you don't get a chance to play again, you know, some teams that didn't get invited to Orlando, I think this season is going to be one to remember. I mean, it's something like we've never seen before. Again, like I referenced the lockout. a few minutes ago, but it's very different. It's been very different than a lockout. I don't think the season's ever stopped for 2 or 3 months, because of a pandemic, and then found a way to actually restart and then crown a champion. So I think to finish this season, I also think next season is going to be different. You wonder when next season is going to start. How many games will we play next season? When will next season end? So it'll be interesting to see the next couple of NBA seasons and how things play out.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think you're right, Marvin. I think this will change basketball scheduling. They've been talking about reducing the amount of games. They've been talking about a lot of things, So I think with this crisis and the resumption of the season after a stoppage, I think it's going to be amazing to see how it all transforms. But I do know one thing: if the Milwaukee Bucks win the championship this year, they're going to feel just as good as the team that won it last year.
Yes, sir.
All right, my friend. Appreciate you. Thanks for coming on with us, and wish you all the best. And hopefully, whenever it gets down to the NBA championships, the Bucks are representing the Eastern Conference in the championship series.
Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Kenny, that was a really great conversation. Thank you for inviting Marvin to join us today.
Well, I mean, with so much going on in the universe, we had a chance to cover a lot of meaningful topics, and I think having a current active player on a roster that has a legitimate shot at winning the Eastern Conference and going on and competing for an NBA title, it doesn't matter if they play 59 games or 125 games. You win an NBA championship ring, that's the epitome of everything you work for. And I think the league is doing everything it can to get this season moving and get it going along and get a champion crown without having to put an asterisk by it.
Yeah.
And like I told Marv, I hope that for the health and safety of all of the players and all of the sports leagues around the world and the NCAAs and these kids and athletes, they work so hard to get back and compete and do the things that they've been doing since they're 7, 8, 9 years. I hope that everybody gets a chance to go back and compete on every level, and find a way to get the Olympics in. So there's so much that has to happen, and I think the health of the world is still in a crisis, and hopefully the scientists will come up with a vaccine for this horrible disease somewhere near the end of the year, first of 2021.
Yeah. And one of our legends said it best on social media just the other day. We're battling 2 pandemics right now, Kenny. COVID-19 and racism. And if only there could be a vaccine for both of them, right?
Well, it is so true. And, it's as a people, we've been fighting this battle against racism. And the only thing that kills hate is love. And racism will never die off. But what's happening in this country, what's happening in the world, it may never die off, but you just want to diminish it to people respect the other people to go out and live a life and not be judged by the color of your skin or treated a certain way because of the color of your skin. So it didn't start today, and we're not going to fix it today, but it's getting better. So let's everybody do your part and use your voice and make it better, one person at a time.
And thank you for using your voice, not only today here with us, but all the time. And for all of our viewers, our legends are really using their voices right now. And we at the NBA are really standing in solidarity with them and their right for their voices to be heard. So we actually are a Legends Voices campaign, and it's an ongoing campaign, and we'll keep doing it for as long as we have to. And we're showcasing what our legends are saying and amplifying their words on our social media handles. So please follow us at NBA Alumni on Twitter and Instagram, and you can read what our legends are saying right now about these very, very important issues that they, on a day-to-day basis, live and breathe. For our legends who are watching now, I hope that you'll be able to join us virtually tonight for Legends Together, moments of hope and encouragement. And if you have no clue what I'm talking about because you didn't get the email, please contact us at memberalert@legendsofbasketball.com so we can make sure that we have your correct email address on file. And Kenny, usually this is where I talk about what's happening next week on Legends Live. But I'll share with our viewers now that we as a staff are hard at work at putting together a really wonderful panel discussion for Tuesday's Legends Live episode, showcasing legends of different races, different generations, different backgrounds, and coming together and having a conversation and letting their legends' voices be heard right here on Legends Live next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. So stay tuned for that. We hope you will join us. And Kenny, it's time to say goodbye.
All right, Bridget, thanks again. Always great being with you.
You too. Take care. And to everyone that is watching, thank you for spending your time with us today on Legends Live. And as always, take care of each other and be well.